You're listening to the Betoota Advocates Weekly News Wrap on Desert Rock FM 96.5. Welcome back to the Betoota Advocate Weekly Bulletin. Thank you for tuning in wherever you are in the world, be that on the wireless, on the podcast apps that you have in your phone. Some you downloaded yourself, some were put there by Apple, much like a U2 album, without your permission, but like a U2 album, if you give it a chance, it brings you great joy. My name's Clancy Overell, editor of the Betoota Advocate. I'm joined by the usual suspects. Errol Park, editor-at-large. How are you, Errol?
Good, mate. Not too sure about your assessment of U2 there. I think in terms of stories that you've come up with over the past 7 years, Clancy, I'd say that one is the least believable. I think that the biggest plays that U2's music got over the past couple of years was at Guantanamo Bay. So
you don't need to explain why it was being played there.
We'll turn the music off and you can go back to, back to Bankstown as David Hicks did.
And of course, in the corner, Wendell, Hussey, the Diamond Tennis favourite newsreader. How are you?
Yeah, pretty good, thanks. Pretty sad about that Ash Party news, and I'm with Errol on this one. Not a big fan of that U2 album, but don't mind the analogy.
Well, look, U2 were an era. They sang much like System of a Down, and every song was explicitly about the Armenian genocide. U2 basically sang songs about certain suburbs in Belfast that weren't that pleasant to live in 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah, which is weird because none of them are from Belfast, so
yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, and they live in
so again, it's
Dublin.
It's just an act of fiction.
What's in the news right now, Wendell, Hussey?
Well, we'll kick off with one of the bigger political stories of the week, and Prime Minister Scott Morrison has been forced to distance himself from a man he has repeatedly joined on stage in front of millions of people.
Yes, if you haven't heard, the founder of Hillsong has had to stand down from his role as the leader of the global tax-free business, also known as a Pentecostal megachurch founded in Sydney's northwest in the 1970s. This comes after two female victims have come forward with allegations about Houston, which also comes alongside the allegations that he was charged with concealing his father's alleged child sex abuse several decades ago, around the time that they founded this church together.
But as a result of the standing down, a raft of people have moved to distance themselves from him, including, and not limited to, our Prime Minister, who, despite calling him his spiritual mentor and close personal friend, says he was never actually that tight with Brian.
Hasn't been to Hillsong for 15 years, he claims?
15 years.
Yeah.
Except for when he postponed the first COVID lockdown so the Hillsong conference could still go ahead. That was 15 months. No, that was more than 15 months ago, so he's in the clear. I think he meant months.
Oh, right,
months,
okay,
yeah.
He's a real Shire Life guy now, I believe.
Formerly known as Horizon, now known as Shire Live. That rebrand came after that particular church distanced themselves from the Houston-run Assemblies of God. That happened around about the time Scott Morrison made his political ambitions clear.
What, after he torpedoed that other bloke he was running
Mr.
against
Toke.
in
Mr.
pre-selection?
Toke for pre-selection. Feels like there's a lot of strings being pulled here.
It's all water under the bridge at this point.
I mean, all of this careful and meticulous, I guess, fine-tuning of a political career, it would seem is pointless if you're still going to stand on stage with the man in front of hundreds of thousands of people no less than a year ago. Anyway.
Interesting one. Carl Newby actually came out and defended Scott Morrison in the comments section on our Facebook page there. He said, now, I'm sure just because he got a lot of his ethics and ideology from this guy doesn't mean Scotty would also cover for sexual predators and abusers. So
we don't want to get sued by an anonymous trust, so we'll move on from that one.
Yeah, we'll cross over to the other side of the political spectrum now, and there's some exciting news from the Labor Party. Streets have announced a collaboration with Albo to make an ice cream that has zero flavour.
Yes, it's an interesting move from the Australian Labor Party, who is dipping its toes into experimental marketing this week, teaming up with ice cream manufacturers Streets to create a special iced confectionery ahead of the election.
Yes, the Albanese ice cream is going to be rolled out in the coming weeks, and it's not going to have much in the way of a memorable flavour at all. It's also notable for its ability to immediately melt when put in a room full of coal lobbyists and union heavyweights. Some would argue that it is better than the double caramel fudge that you can find, or McFlurry even, at the Sutherland Shire Oreo McDonald's down there.
Yes, the old, timeless, hilarious urban legend, that one. But Albo did want to put a red and green scarf on the ice cream because he supports the rugby league team known as the Rabbitohs. But it was a little tricky logistically, and as it turns out, Albo's more of a gelato man.
Yeah.
Well, that would make sense with the last
That
name,
would make
obviously.
sense.
It's that tricky last name.
There were
Yeah.
also lots of angry comments on that one from the other side of the political spectrum as well, coming out to defend
Who, the
Mr.
Greens?
Albanese. No, not the Greens.
The Rabbitohs fans.
Way closer to the centre than that.
The noisiest people on the internet, of course, are Rabbitohs fans.
Finance news now, and economists have released a map of which areas will be completely fucked if interest rates go up. And it is a map of Australia that is entirely red except for the inner suburbs of Brisbane, Melbourne and Sydney. Those localities are green, which means they're not fucked, with the rest of the country being red, which means completely fucked, as we just mentioned.
Picture tells 1,000 words, eh, Wendell? We speak to the leading economist from South Betoota Polytechnic who revealed that if the Reserve Bank of Australia, brackets RBA, you know, those in the know will know what that acronym stands for, if the RBA raises the current interest rate, things might be quite bad for homeowners, particularly new homeowners.
Yeah, Professor Alan Koch explained that roughly 95% of households around the country are, quote, going to be fucked if the RBA bites the bullet, saying that it might be time to have a look at picking yourself up a Venezuelan credit card, which for those people who aren't in the know is a L1A1 SLR, which was basically the last good rifle the Australian Army had before we got this plastic piece of shit that just cannot handle being in the desert, cannot handle being in the jungle, cannot handle being fucking anywhere, Wendell.
Yeah, you don't want a firearm that
You need
jams.
the Venezuelan one.
Yeah,
you need the Venezuelan one. It might be a bit heavy. It might be made of wood and metal, like, oh, sorry, it's from the 20th century, but it carries a 7.62 millimeter. So you only need to put one of those bullets into the chest of an attacker, and they're down for the count.
Really send your landlord a message. Now, we'll finish up with sport, and Ash Barty has sensationally retired from tennis to pursue a WBBL comeback with the Brisbane Heat.
Yes, this one came out of the blue if you are an idiot. World number one tennis player Ash Barty announced that she's packing away the racket at the peak of her powers. The Ipswich product has decided to walk away from the sport with plenty of questions thrown about what is next for the wildly popular sports star.
And once again, the Advocate came to the party with another exclusive scoop, revealing what her next move will be, Clancy.
We did. Actually, most people thought she was just going to retire and do fuck all, which is what literally every one of us would do if we had $45 million in the bank and endorsement deals that could last you the rest of your lifetime. But we still had a look around, and we beat all the Fox Sports types to report that Ash will be taking up a contract with the Brisbane Heat in the Women's Big Bash League. She played a season with them a few years ago, and she said she's got unfinished business there, as well as the offer of a free Hyundai Santa Fe and a fuel card paid for, of course, by the Brisbane Heat. So exciting times ahead for the Springfield Renegade.
Yep, move over Chris Lynn. There's a new star in town. They are firm favourites to win that title now, I believe.
And our reporters were able to confirm for us just in the past day that she has signed a contract worth close to $700 for the season.
$700 per win, I believe.
$700, no, just for the season. It's a flat rate, which is exactly the same as what the boys get. The boys get a flat rate per game, but they get a bonus if they win, so it's equality. They get paid the same rate.
Other sporting news, we'll just finish up quickly. We won't touch on this, but Italian soccer fans are now all Italian rugby fans as well.
And soon there'll be Italian Big Bash fans as well, because that's their next olive hope is maybe the
T20 World Cup.
T20 World Cup, because they obviously, there's 2 World Cups now that they're just not even getting a look in for the soccer.
Those
North Macedonia, they are footballing powerhouses.
How big is North Macedonia?
2 million people.
about the size of Wagga Wagga, I've heard.
Jesus Christ, get it together, Italy.
No, anything to get out of work, those Italians.
That's it. They tanked so they didn't have to go to the World Cup.
They're knocking on the glass in the booth, so we are going to wrap this up and get out of here. Have a good weekend. Bye-bye.
Au revoir.
Ciao.
you